Hey brothers and sisters, welcome to another time of Bible teaching. This video is going to be a real short video, and all I'm doing is taking one piece out of the video, putting the pieces together, and I'm trying to bring this out because I think it's very important, and I'd like this to get out and have people see it. Real simply, this was the final piece that helped me put that video together, helped me put everything together, and it's actually one of the first pieces I started with. So about 15 months ago when I started doing videos, two things came to mind, or I learned. One, tribulation is a week of years. You read about that in Daniel 9:27. Everything in Daniel 9, the 77s or 70 weeks, they are weeks of years. Just like a week that we know as a week, Sunday through Saturday, it ends on a Saturday, a Sabbath. Okay, in a week of years, it's 7 years that end on the Sabbath year or the Shemitah year. Okay, you cannot start a week in the middle of the week. You always start a week on Sunday. You always end it on Saturday, the Sabbath. A week of years on God's calendar is always ended on the Sabbath. Okay, the Saturday, the Sabbath. That should make sense. You can't start a week in the middle of the week. You got to start at the beginning of the week. Well, Daniel 9:27 makes clear that tribulation, which it's the rapture and then tribulation, but tribulation is a week of years. It can't be just any 7 years. It has to be a week of years on God's calendar. And I don't trust, there are years missing in the calendar. We're at 5783 on the Jewish calendar, if that's correct. We've got 200 and something years to go to get to the year 6000, and I haven't seen anybody that can tell me where those years are missing and why that makes sense. Also, a lot of people try to count with those years in Daniel. Big mistake. Counting 483 years. There's a break in there, the 62 sevens, the 7 sevens, and there's no years of Jubilee in there. You can't count that way. You can't count from way back either because of the missing years. I want to see things from Scripture. All right. So what I did at that point is I found Daniel, in Daniel 9:62, it tells us that Messiah is crucified after 62 sevens. Okay. He's crucified after a week of years. He's crucified in the first year of a week of years. That means he's crucified. That tribulation starts in the first year of a week of years. Go from 30 AD, do the math. You can see when the sevens are. I don't trust the calendars we have today, whether they be English, Jewish. I think they're all off. And I've got reasons for that. Not going to go into that in this video. So when I did the math, it comes to 2022. And that's when I started my videos. If the rapture doesn't happen in 2022, you got to wait till 2029. Obviously, the rapture didn't happen in 2022. So I started looking at things and whatever, and it finally hit me. And it has to do with the year of Jubilee. Now, again, the Jews haven't been recognizing a year of Jubilee. We don't really know when one is. Okay? Anytime you see any prophecy teachers teaching about when a year of Jubilee is, they start picking dates that things happened in the world and said, well, this, and then 50 years later this, and then 50 years later this. They have to be years of Jubilee. No, they don't. I want to see it from Scripture. Call me silly. I want to see things in Scripture. Year of Jubilee is mentioned in Leviticus 25. One of the things that catch me, you look at all the things that have to happen. It looks like the millennial reign. The one in particular, God says the land is mine. The land is supposed to go back to the original owner. When does the land go back to God? When Messiah is sitting on the throne at the beginning of a millennial kingdom. That to me is a good point. You also see a year of Jubilee in Ezekiel 40. Ezekiel 40 through 48 is a description of the millennial reign. Okay? He gets his vision in Ezekiel 40 verse 1 on the 10th, at the beginning of the year on the 10th day. The only time the beginning of the year occurs on the 10th day is the beginning of a year of Jubilee. Therefore, his vision about the millennial kingdom was received on a year of Jubilee. You also see it in Isaiah 61:1. So far, Messiah in his ministry has turned water into wine. He got baptized. He went out to spend 40 days in the desert or in the wilderness where he's tempted by Satan. This is Teshuvah. It ends on right about Yom Kippur. It ends on Yom Kippur when a year of Jubilee would start. So he goes into the temple and he reads Isaiah 61:1, which I got a few points from it. I'm not reading the actual verse. And I'm reading from, or these points were taken from Luke 4:17 through 19. And this is the goal. This is what he says he's going to do. To preach, he says, I have come to preach the gospel to the poor, heal the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, recover sight to the blind, set liberty to those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And then he didn't read the rest of the verse and he sat down. My question, did he do any of those things? So I was starting to count a year of Jubilee from when he read that, because in Luke, he goes on to say, today in your hearing, these things are fulfilled. But he hadn't done any of those things. He hadn't fulfilled it. Now, in Hebrew, and he was speaking in Hebrew, this could be a prophetic perfect tense of a verb. What that means is that he's saying something that's so assured that he will do it that he's saying as if he already did. You can't see it in English. And it's very hard to even see in Hebrew. Luckily, I've got a teacher that sees these things. And we don't have a Hebrew version of Luke, so we can't be sure. But these things is what he fulfilled on the cross. And if he fulfilled them on the cross, that means the year of Jubilee was 30 AD. The next one in our lifetime is 2030. And that possibly is when the millennial kingdom starts. Subtract 7 years. But what bothered me is my math told me the next week of years started in 2022. But if 30 AD was a year of Jubilee, then Messiah was crucified after a week of years, because the year of Jubilee comes after a week of years. That pushes the beginning of the next week of years to the year that starts on Rosh Hashanah in 2023, just 2 weeks away. So you have to have that perfect 7 years on God's calendar for tribulation. If I am correct about Messiah being crucified in 30 AD, and I've talked about this in many videos why I'm pretty assured he is, and if I am correct about 30 AD being a year of Jubilee, then 2023 is a really good shot in about 2 weeks from when I'm going to release this video. Anyhow, thank you very much. I appreciate you watching. If you didn't get a chance to subscribe, I'm going to attach 3 videos. If I don't do it, somebody mentioned, Dave, you said you were going to put the videos in the description. But the videos I want to attach is I'm going to do I have a longer version walking through all of Daniel 9. It's an amazing teaching. Daniel 9 is amazing passage of scripture, and about why they were there and why it is weeks of years. And it's a video, I think I've entitled it Forgiveness 70 times 7, something like that. And I am going to attach the longer version, putting the pieces together, and that explains all of this in more detail. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care.